folks, welcome. Welcome to this. For me, it is Monday. Is it? Yeah, Monday. It is 10:30 p.m. here. It should be around 4:30 US time, and it should be just around tomorrow morning in Australia. And yeah, we are continuing from yesterday with the young thug RICO trial. And yeah, since we are still awaiting the actual trial to start, we will continue. We will do the initial hearing. Initially, this trial set off with a 7-day hearing, and we will then, of course, begin with day one of that. Before that, I see Tweety is here. Corn Pop is already here. Perfect timing. I just woke up. Good. Yeah. And Mads, Peace, and well, the regulars who should be dropping by. I know 4:30 is a weird time in the United States because people are on their way home or just about to leave work. So hopefully you have your handheld devices on and me in your ear. As per usual, I will try to be as audible as possible so you can have me on in the background and do commentary. I will, let's see, I will set subtitles are ready for when we start watching. Now, first day is missing an hour, and it's not my fault. It is Law and Seward who managed to fork up the first hour of this hearing, but I don't think it matters all that too much because it's an initial hearing. Oh, Indigo Luna. Good. Now no, still missing a few of the regulars, but I'm sure they will show up. Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh, my hair. Hey, I took a nap. I woke up 15 minutes ago. I kind of forgot to make everything look as nice as possible. But yeah, you get what you get. So, coffee. And if it gets spicy, yeah. And oh, I noticed the door out to the kitchen. Yeah, you don't need to see all that. There. I got my books for my casual streams. Up there is Nordic Gods and Swedish Folk and Fairy Tales. Those are two books I will do excerpts. Is that a word? I will read from those books on my casual streams. So you learn more about Sweden and our old ways and our old myths and stuff like that. Hello, American Dreamer. And as per usual, my Wi-Fi is going up and down, so sometimes I might be a bit blurry. I've been talking to my provider about that, and no, it's your device. I tried 3 devices and a router. Pattern is what the pattern is. The weave will as the weave wills. If you read Wheel of Time, you know that reference. Okay, but let's not hold you on for too long with me. Yeah, first hour is missing, so we will be starting an hour into the first day of the initial hearing. Add to stream. There it is. And boop. There. Okay, are you all ready? Because we will run right into this hearing. And you can see young thug, lawyer, I believe. There's a lot of lawyers and a few defendants because this is a RICO trial. And young thug is a part of the YSL-gang. And you learned yesterday that YSL in the gang version apparently stands for Young Slime Folks. Did it? No? Something of that. No, Young Slime Life. Because apparently that is very, very cool to be young and slime. I don't know. Yeah. So young thug, the leader of the Young Slime Life, is on trial for RICO charges. So yeah, let's get on with it. Yeah, let's get on with it. There.
With a GBI, or you all I know have used in the past a different examiner just in the off chance that somebody's not available.
Hello, Indigo.
They should probably start working on that today.
We can switch her and Miss Lowry's testimony if we need to.
All right. Well, like I said, let's just see where we are.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right. Anybody else? Okay. All right, lawyers. That is defense lawyers.
One other quick matter here. I've talked with the state this morning. The state has not yet responded to my omnibus motions, our omnibus motions. The state says that they need a little bit more time, and that's fine. That's great. That's no problem. And I'll be happy to proceeding forward with the number 2. I haven't received anything other than CVs for the
long-haired
expert witnesses,
defense attorney
if there is any
with
research,
tattoos.
if there is any
Okay.
articles, if there are anything in particular under the here's what I've used to form my expert opinions.
Yeah.
If there's anything any of these witnesses are going to rely on that's going to be introduced by the state, such as professional articles or otherwise,
Maybe we should have turned those over to
I
you.
don't know.
that's what I was
Maybe a
just making
distant
sure that there's
relative.
nothing but CVs.
At least for now.
Right.
Okay.
Mr. Williams joins in that request.
Anybody, any other defense lawyers that we have here? Let me just go ahead and find out. Let's see. Let's take roll to see who's here today too, so I can go ahead and. All right, Mr. Adams.
Yes, sir.
No, I'm sorry, defendant Khalif Adams.
Good morning, Judge.
Good morning, madam.
Deandre Cowan on behalf of Mr.
All right, Mr. Adams is next to you. Good morning, madam. Okay, then we have Ronte Beebe.
Good morning, Your Honor. Durante Partridge on behalf of Mr. Beebe.
Good morning, sir, and good morning, Mr. Beebe. All right, well, let me, while I'm doing this, Mr. Partridge, do you have any other objections or issues that you wish to bring up in regards to Daubert or 702?
Nothing at this time, Your Honor.
Okay, all
So
right.
the Partridge family is here.
DeMonte Blaylock. Yeah, Damon Blaylock. Oh, you're right. All right, good morning, sir. And Mr. Blaylock is next to you. Good morning, sir. Any issues as to Daubert or 702 that otherwise have not been raised already? Okay, thank you, sir. All right. Good morning, Mr. Adams, and good morning, Mr. Williams. Okay, all right. Heard from you all. All right, let's see. Cordarius Dorsey.
Good morning, also the channel, Ms. Dorsey. He is still
Okay,
in
the
the process
G-
of getting here.
Okay.
So my only request.
Yes,
many
this
of
is
these expert
from
witnesses do not provide
December
those.
19th.
I think the gang ones are the most important one to us. So I just be asking that
Another
we
long-haired
hold off on those
lawyer?
until he's physically here, so we can, engage in the actual motion here.
If necessary, would you be okay with us trying to involve him via Zoom?
I have absolutely no objection to that. If he can at least be present virtually, we can go forward on that.
We'll try and work on that, see if we can't get that done in the.
And yes, Darcy, this is from December 19th. This trial was expected to begin mid-January, and it didn't. And drugs and guns. Yes, more or less. RICO stands for Racketeer, Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Acts. And under that umbrella, all the things can be included, from tax evasion to robbery to... It virtually means that anybody, any crime anybody in that organization does, everybody can be found guilty for under the RICO-act. All I know of RICO is from Sons of Anarchy. Yeah. Well, we will probably learn more about RICO than we ever needed during this hearing. There's a lot of lawyers, there's a lot of defendants, and we listened to snippets yesterday where we found out that at least 8 of the YSL, Young Slime Life, that will never stop being funny. Young Slime Lifers, at least 8 of them have taken a plea deal and might and probably will be testifying against Young Thug. Yeah, so it will be interesting. So we saw yesterday a bit about the shenanigans that have been going on. Now we are moving into the full RICO case hearing, day 1.
In the absence? Yes, sir, I would. Yeah. See if you can do it. Our break, Mr. Chamberlain, if we can do that, that'd be great.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Any other issues as to Daubert and 702 other than what you've mentioned already?
I think the gang experts are the ones that are going to be hashed out. Anything else on the medicals most likely we'll be able to stipulate after we have a discussion with the state.
Wonderful. Okay, thank you, sir. All right.
What's going on here? Oh, it's on 1.25.
Okay, Mr. Eppinger. Good morning, sir. All right, thank you. Good morning, Mr. Eppinger. All right, okay, Mr. Johnson, anything other that you'd like to raise that otherwise hasn't been presented already? I'm not doing it today. It'll probably be tomorrow, or actually, I may do it. It depends on whether or not how much time I have left and availability. Okay, so I'll note your objection in that respect. Okay. Okay. All right. All right. Let's see. Miles Farley. Good morning, Mr. Menaez.
There are also many defendants and lawyers that most of them are in the background.
I got your 25 motions. All right, so we'll knock those out at some point in time. Okay. All right. Thank you, sir.
Okay. By the way,
Okay.
your caps lock button seems
Javon
to be stuck.
Fleetwood.
Just saying.
Mr. Fleetwood, good morning, sir. All right. Mr. Hoover, do we have him a lawyer or is it still
Mac
Miss,
is here. Maybe it's one of the
Miss
long-haired
Hemingway.
guys.
We are still in the process of trying to get Mr. Fleetwood an attorney, Your Honor.
Okay. All right, Mr. Fleetwood, you're welcome to sit back.
I
there.
don't
This
mind
pertains to you,
all caps. I
and
can
we're
read
trying to
them as
still
well
get
as
you a
the
lawyer,
normal
so bear
writing.
with us, okay? Yes, sir? Yes. Okay, good. Okay, thank you, sir. All right, let's see. Demican Garlington. Mr. Garlington? Oh, sir, I think you're still in the
Don't
process.
expect
We
me
still
to
need get you an
remember
attorney,
any
correct?
of these names.
Yes? Okay. Yes, Mr. Hoover?
I was just gonna, say yes if I needed to.
Okay,
Okay.
all right.
Former Director Hoover is here. Is he
All
in
right,
dress?
Quintavious Greer.
Good morning, Your Honor.
Good morning, Ms. Mormon.
Mike Russell.
It's a Mormon case.
Okay,
Oh.
all right. Any other issues in regards to the Daubert or 702 issues?
No, Your Honor.
All right, okay. Okay, Marquivas Huey, Mr. Huey.
Good morning, Your Honor.
Good morning, Mr. Matthews. All right,
A
any
lot
other
of
issues in
defendants,
regards to
a lot of lawyers
Daubert
here.
or 702, sir, that otherwise have not been raised?
No, Your Honor. However, for the peanut gallery back here, Judge, when the lawyers are addressing the court, if we could just speak into the microphone so we can hear back here.
Yes, sir. Okay, fair enough. All right, DeMonte Kendrick.
Good morning, Your Honor. Doug Weinstein here for Mr. Kendrick.
Good morning again, sir. All right. Any other issues in regards to Daubert or 702 that otherwise have not been raised?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, all right. Thank you, sir. All right, Demise McMullen.
More defendants and more lawyers.
Okay, he's in the corner. Thank you, sir. All right. Do we have an attorney for him or is that still Amanda Young?
We're still working on that as well, Your Honor.
Okay, all right. Okay, Tinquarius Mender. Where are you, sir? Put your hand up, raise your hand right quick. Okay, I see him. Okay, all right. Where is Ms. Fagan? Is Ms. Fagan still your attorney?
I think Ms. Fagan was on trial last week. I don't know if that trial is still continuing.
Okay, where can we check on her, please? All right, thank you, sir. All right, Jaden Myrick.
Morning, Judge.
Good morning, Ms. Bernard.
I would join in on Mr. Hobby's request and Mr. Adams's objections. Judge.
Okay, all right. Thank you, madam. All right, Cormarvius Nichols, Mr. Harvey, again, good morning. Anything else, sir?
No, Judge, thank you. But can I ask you a question? May I?
Well, yes, you can ask me a question.
Okay.
Okay, I may not have an answer for you, but I'll try.
It's kind of up to you.
Okay.
Do you think it would be easier if we had an automatic opt-in rule? And that anybody that wants to opt out can say, hey, I'm out of that one, instead of going,
I'm doing this because I need to take roll.
no, I
so-
get that. I'm just asking, as far as you're concerned and everybody else is concerned, we can automatically opt in if the court makes that ruling in that way. Anybody that doesn't say I'm out is automatically joined and we don't have to.
I don't have any issue with that.
Okay, good. Can you guys have any objection to that?
I'll look into that.
What?
I'll look into it.
All right. With your permission, I think that'd make things a lot easier.
Okay, I don't have any issue with that. Okay, all right.
And as per usual, like, subscribe, you know all the YouTube stuff. And if you want to become a member, please do. It's $3 a month, and it gives you a bit of content that is member only, and it helps me with planning ahead on improvements to this channel. One of the improvements is, see that? I went out and bought a new office chair. For you who don't know, my previous office chair got a bit crooked. And so I've been sitting in a lawn chair for the last 3 weeks. But thanks to members and a few super chats, I was able to purchase this one. It holds up to 440 pounds. So hopefully this one will hold a bit better than the old one. Okay. End of that grift. Don't mind super chats, but yeah. Oh, thank you so much, Wolfram. Gifted 5 memberships to Dory K, Nathan C, Emily Gale, Irina Learning, and Edward M. Lockwood. Congratulations, you are now members. You are a part of the Vikings saying hi crew. So welcome here, and yeah, thank you so much, Wolfram. You are amazing. I know you are gifting a lot of memberships, and I appreciate you so much for doing that. Let's continue. Not yet. Not yet. There are no nudity on my streams. As far as I know, there's no nudity. Now, I have been severely intoxicated on a few of the casual ones, but I do believe there's no nudity. Might be partial nudity, but not full nudity. Okay. What happened? Silence is... Someone's on the phone. Does not look like a lawyer.
Okay, Rodeus Ryan?
I have no idea.
Good morning again, madam. Is Mr. Ryan sitting next to you?
Yes, yes.
Okay, all right, thank you. Any other issues in
That is
regards to
your choice.
Daubert or 702, madam?
Pants or prison?
Okay, all right.
I just heard from Ms. Reagan, she isn't with it on this speedy trial motion. I think she said she filed a conflict. Her trial last week, she received an acquittal, but she isn't with it. And I can communicate with her if you want her to get here after the hearing.
I filed this was filed on the 22nd of November, so she needs to have done, I don't know if we got a conflict.
We
with her.
will
Did
see
get
on
one
Friday.
Chamberlain? All right,
I let her know pay this way after she's done her hearing.
all right, thank you, sir. All right, Antonio Sledge? Where are you, Ms. Sledge? Okay, all right. Do we have an attorney yet, Mr. Hoover?
No, Your Honor, still working on that.
Mr. Wright is withdrawn, is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay,
Okay.
okay, all right.
One lawyer withdrawn.
Trontavia Stevens, Ms. Gladden?
Your Honor, I don't have any information for any of the petitions.
Okay, thank you, madam. All right, Shannon Stillwell. Okay, all right. Thank you, sir. Okay, Antonio Sumlin.
Good morning, Your Honor. Sean Hoover, Mr. Sullivan is here, and we just updated what everybody else said.
Okay, all right, thank you, sir. All right.
That's a big bunch of defendants due to RICO-trial. They might also
Okay,
be
I've taken
witnesses.
roll, and I think we've accounted for everybody we need to account for, as well as councils. Okay. Ms. Rosenwasser, I will, the time is about 10:50. Let me go ahead and give you till about 11:20, and I can check in with you at that point in time. I'll come back out, and you can, you as well as other council can go ahead and tell me what what arrangements or agreements you have come to in regards to the experts and the days. What I'm hoping, or if you are, then we can maybe reorder some of these witnesses, like especially your gang expert, since they may take a little bit of time. And I have a question. Why is Ms. Viverito testifying via video conference?
Your Honor, that was, I spoke to the court about that at the hearing on November 17th. I asked the court if there was a witness who had pre-planned travel plans, if we could do her via video conference.
Okay, yes, you did.
We filed that motion. Only defendant Kitchens objected, and he is no longer on this case.
That's, yeah, okay, I got it. I remember that, madam. Okay, all right.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, let me go ahead and recess then so you all can chat.
Okay.
And like I said, I'll come back on at 20 minutes after thereabouts, and we can go ahead and continue our discussions. Okay, so we're in recess. All right.
Okay. Now they are in a bit of recess. Yes. Oh, that's a hairdo. His hair is so wild. He needs fishnet stockings on it. I don't know. Yes, Friday. I will have. Jeff on Legal Vices has his F-It Friday on Friday, and I will do a warm up to that stream. So I will start 2 hours ahead of him. We will have some fun here, and then we will go over there and help Jeff grift. And there will be alcohol. We can promote alcohol on YouTube, so we will act as warning examples on why alcohol
All right,
is a
council,
bad
so we go
thing.
ahead and get situated again. Thank you very much.
Recess over.
All right, Ms. Rosenwasser, did you have ample time to talk with your colleagues?
Yes, Your Honor, I believe that we have spoken, and from what I understand, I hope defense counsel will correct me if I'm wrong. The conclusion that I was able to understand is that they would like us to put all of our witnesses up and certainly establish the qualifications and the reliability. But they are particularly interested in challenging our gang experts. I think that, but we will, so that said, we will be prepared to go ahead and present testimony from all the witnesses on our list. That's fair.
That's fair. And logistically, what that means, Judge, is that we're not waiving the qualifications that will be required under Daubert, but we do not anticipate we will have much, if any, questions for certain witnesses. For example, as we've discussed before, medical examiners, forensic chemists, fingerprint experts, that sort of thing. We will certainly have, we expect to have a significant amount of questioning for the gang experts once they go.
Okay, well, I'm just trying to get as much opportunity to do that. So to that extent, we'll if we may have to reshuffle some of these witnesses, but let's just see where we are. All right, can we for the witnesses you have today, you have Dr. Sullivan,
Yes.
Mr. Lauzon,
Yes.
and you have Ms. Sims. Do you have any of those available right now?
I have, Your Honor, we have Dr. Sullivan and Mr. Lauzon available. And as I said earlier, Ms. Sims had that family emergency. So Dr. Sims will be on the 29th, but we do have Deputy Hall available to come today. If the court would like to fill out the schedule today, he's available. We had him on the schedule for tomorrow, but we can get him here this afternoon if the court would like to hear from him as well.
I'm trying to accommodate some other folks that are not here as of yet, since that's fairly substantial and significant testimony. So, and I'm trying to make sure I can deconflict whether or not, everyone was given an opportunity to be here today. Everyone was noticed to be here today. So,
So we can certainly have Deputy Hall come tomorrow as planned. I just wanted to make sure we had him available for the court because we were sorry about that last minute family emergency with Dr. Sims.
Well, is there any way that we can get like Miss Scott or Mr. Panea or or Mr. Brennan or Paulzik, Dr. Hanninger, any of those folks, or any earlier than?
I can.
Because I don't think it's going to take us that long to finish. I mean, I was I was just going to use Dr. Sullivan and Mr. Lamb kind of as a test matter, and we'll see how long it takes. But
Your Honor, I can certainly call, if the court is, Ms. Scott is the witness whose child is sick, so we had moved her to Wednesday, but if the court would be amenable to her via video conference, I might be able to get her this afternoon. I can certainly try to make some calls and see if I can get anyone else, but.
let's just see how long. Let's just get Dr. Sullivan here and get her.
And we also do have Officer Lauzon. They're both back here and ready to go.
Let's just do those and see how long that takes us, and then we can kind of gauge from there. And I can kind of at lunch give you some marching orders of maybe some other people we can get maybe this afternoon or via Zoom. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Okay. All right. So go ahead and summon Dr. Sullivan, please.
Okay, so Dr. Sullivan will begin here testifying in this hearing. This is in preparation for the actual trial. I'm not American. I'm not entirely sure how it works, but we will find out together. Because I don't know
Karen
how.
Sullivan, KarenSullivan.
I don't know how proficient you all are in the chat, and
Hey, go ahead.
Thank you. Dr. Sullivan, thank you for being here today.
it's good sound at least.
And I know you just spelled your name for the record. Can you please state where you currently are employed?
I'm the Chief Medical Examiner for the Fulton County Medical Examiner's Office here in Atlanta.
And how long have you been employed there?
I did my fellowship year of forensic pathology training in 2002 to 2003, stayed on part-time until October 2007, at which point I became a full-time employee there.
Okay. And what was your education prior to becoming a medical examiner, the chief medical examiner?
Well, I have an undergraduate degree in zoology from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill and a master's degree in anatomy from the University of Georgia. And after which I was a high school teacher here in Fulton County for about 5.5 years.
Zoology and anatomy. So animal genitalia.
And then I did a pathology residency at Emory University, and then a forensic pathology fellowship at the Fulton County Medical Examiner's Office in conjunction with Emory.
Okay, thank you very much. And so through all those positions, was all
She changed
training to
the path
become a
midlife. Good for
medical
her.
examiner, especially the medical school and the other courses you took?
Yes.
Okay. Is that the general path of training for people that would become a medical examiner or chief medical examiner?
Yes.
Are you involved in any professional organizations?
The National Association of Medical Examiners.
Okay, thank you. Your Honor, at this point, I would like to move to admit State's Exhibit 1 for the purposes of this hearing. It is Dr. Sullivan's CV. This has been provided to all defense, but I'm happy to show anyone if they have any other questions.
Any objection by any defense counsel as to States 1, Dr. Sullivan's curriculum vitae, CV?
On behalf of Mr. Williams, there's no objection.
All right, anybody else? Is there anybody have an objection? Okay, if you don't have an objection, then I'll admit States 1 for purposes of this hearing, okay?
Thank you, and may I bring it up to?
Yes, you can hand it to Ms. Weaver, please.
Wolfram says, in other words, she
And
hates the
Dr.
living.
Sullivan, did you have to get any specific certifications or anything to do your job?
Yes, I'm board certified in anatomic and clinical pathology, and I'm also board certified in forensic pathology.
Now, do you have to ever take any kind of continuing education classes or continuing trainings?
Continuing education, yes.
How often do you have to do that?
Every other year when I renew my license, my medical license.
Is that basically up to date on, new procedures or any other things that might keep you up to date on anything that would have come out in the field?
Yes.
Okay. Have you ever taught any classes? Oh, I'm sorry. Can everyone hear me better now? I'm sorry. Dr. Sullivan, have you ever taught any classes or seminars or other trainings?
I teach classes at Morehouse School of Medicine in the second year pathology course.
And what are the subject of those classes?
Well, one is injuries, which is a basic introduction to forensic pathology. I also teach lectures in cardiovascular diseases, urinary tract diseases, hematopoietic diseases, and central nervous system tumors.
And have you ever had anything that you've done published or appeared in any publications or other media forms?
No.
Okay. How many autopsies have you done, ballpark?
I've either done myself or supervised a resident
Have you
or
done
fellow
yourself?
approximately
No.
3,000 autopsies.
And do you currently perform autopsies in your job now as the chief medical examiner?
Yes.
Okay. And as the chief medical examiner, does that mean are you the highest ranking member in your office?
Yes.
Okay. So do you supervise others doing that as well?
Yes,
Have you been qualified as an expert witness before?
I have.
Do you know about how many times?
I think it's over 100, but I don't know an exact number.
Has that always been in Fulton County Superior Court or other courts as well?
Was one other court, Gwinnett County, in a civil case.
Okay. And what was the subject of the testimony in the Fulton County court cases?
Homicide
You want the link,
cases,
Mo?
I think, have been the vast majority.
I can send you a link.
There may have been a traffic accident case, but I believe the majority of them are homicides.
And is part of your job determining like how someone died or the cause of their death?
Yes.
Okay. What techniques do you use to conduct autopsies or determine cause of death? Are there certain methods that you've learned?
Well, we examine the person externally for natural disease and trauma, and internal examination of the organs also for natural disease and trauma, and also interpret toxicology results, vitreous chemistry results in order to determine cause and manner of death.
Okay. And have you been trained in analyzing all those different factors that you just discussed?
Yes.
And is that something you learned in medical school or through textbooks, publications?
Medical school, residency, and fellowship.
Okay. And are those different analyses and procedures that you perform, are those written up in medical textbooks or other written publications?
They are.
Okay. Is that fairly a standard procedure that most medical examiners use?
It is, yes.
So is there sort of a certain standard way to conduct an autopsy and determine manner of death?
Yes.
Okay. And is the work that you do in the autopsies ever checked or examined by colleagues or other reviewing boards?
Yes.
Who reviews it?
In our office, all homicide cases and undetermined manner of death cases are peer reviewed by another person in the office.
That's not peer
Are there
review. You
generally
American
standards
peer
controlling the
review
work
in the
that you do
weirdest
in
way,
performing the autopsies?
at least in criminal matters.
Not sure what you mean by standards.
I guess a better way to ask would be, are there best
Peer
practices
review.
to perform an autopsy?
Yes.
And are those the practice?
Peer review should be conducted by a person who has no obligations towards the original author or the original person, the person who performs the original, in this case, autopsy. If it is peer reviewed, then the peer reviewer should have no working relationship with the first examiner. That is actual peer review. They should know nothing about it, not read, just, okay, let's check the photos, let's check the notes, let's check everything. is this conducted as it should have been? Can I see other things in the photos and everything? That's peer review by somebody who doesn't have a working relationship. But here in the United States, it's apparently perfectly acceptable to more or less look over your shoulder and say, "Hey, you subordinate, did I do this correctly?" I mean, what are they going to say? Yeah, just my comment on this. I'm sure she is a competent medical examiner.
Practices that we discussed earlier that are published and taught in medical schools and in your training.
Yes,
And when you do autopsies, do you follow those best practices?
yes,
Do you do that every time you perform an autopsy or supervise an autopsy?
I do.
And who else uses this same autopsy procedure and investigation procedure that you discuss? Is that every school or pathologist's office? Is it just to Georgia? Is it just to y'all?
No, it's all medical examiner offices who are members of the National Association of Medical Examiners or NAME follow their standards. So the majority, I would say, of offices in the country do the same thing.
Okay. And Dr. Sullivan, are you aware if you ever performed an autopsy on a Jamari Holmes? And I do have a document to refresh your recollection if
Yes,
necessary.
if I could see the document, please.
Your Honor, if I may use the medical examiner report to refresh your recollection, I'm happy to show it to defense counsel. It was served in discovery.
Any defense counsel wish to look at it before Ms. Rosenwasser presents it to Dr. Sullivan?
I would like to review that.
Sure.
Come on up.
As you see, there's a lot of defendants and a lot of lawyers in the room because it's a RICO case and the entire gang is more or less on trial
You may approach
with
the
Young
witnesses,
Thug
Okay.
as the main trialee.
Read over it and
look up
when your recollection is refreshed.
And this is the initial hearing. So this is what we are watching now is not the actual trial. We are waiting for the trial to start, and they have restarted the jury selection. But that can take a while because this will be a long trial. I've heard numbers of 6 months for this trial.
Is your recollection refreshed, ma'am?
Yes,
Dr. Sullivan, did you perform the autopsy of Mr. Jamari Holmes?
yes,
And did you follow all the standards and procedures that you outlined above and the best practices when you did so?
yes,
Thank you. Your Honor, at this point, the state would ask the court to qualify Dr. Sullivan as an expert in forensic pathology based on her experience, background, training, and the fact that this is a well-established, accepted field of forensic science.
All right. Anybody wish to voir dire Dr. Sullivan?
Yes, sir.
All right, go ahead.
Good morning, ma'am.
good morning.
You mentioned to us that all of your expertise is peer reviewed.
Yes,
And what did you mean by that?
that means that at least one other doctor reviews the report and the photographs of the autopsy before the final signature is placed on the autopsy report.
Okay, thank you. And what about the things that you learned in medical school and in undergrad? Was the subject matter you learned peer reviewed by other medical schools? Do you know?
That I don't know.
Okay. Do you know if that would be normal or out of the ordinary?
I don't have an opinion one way or the other.
Okay. And why is it important that things are peer reviewed?
Well, so that you aren't making a mistake that can easily be caught by someone else, just to get a second, at least another pair of eyes on the report.
Okay, thank you. And then moving on to where
That's
you
not
talked
peer
about
review.
analyzing injuries. Do you analyze gunshot wounds?
Yes,
And in your analysis
When
of
do you
gunshot wounds,
hear?
does that ever
Now my
make
chat is
conclusions
almost
about the
complete.
trajectory of the bullet that caused a wound?
yes.
Okay, and how do you determine that?
Well, you look to see where the entrance wound is on a person's body, and where the bullet ends, and or where there's an exit wound that corresponds to that entrance wound. And so using those 2 points, you can come up with a trajectory.
Okay, and you're not always able to come up with that though, right?
No.
Okay, all right, thank you, Judge. Those are my questions.
All right, anybody else?
Yes, Your Honor. I just have a couple of questions for you. Now, when you say your reports are peer reviewed by somebody else in the office, are these blind peer reviews, or does that person know you're the one that conducted this report or created this report?
They know, we all know whose report it is.
Okay. So, well, let me ask you this. Have you ever done blind peer reviews in your office?
No.
All right. So whoever follows you up was basically trained the way you were trained. You're in the same office, you all work together, and they know you actually were the one that did the report.
No, we're not all necessarily trained in the same way. People can come into the office from other medical examiners' offices or other fellowships so that they may have a different way of looking at things. But when you're looking at gunshot wounds or other injuries, you're being as objective as you can and thinking, what do I see as I look at this person's injuries?
Thank you, Toddly Pip and Beans on Toast. Hashtag free Zachariah Anderson. The 65 count indictment charges 28 people with crimes as murder, attempted murder, armed robbery, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, theft, drug dealing, carjacking, racketeering, and witness intimidation. Okay, so that are the charges. And I saw earlier from Wolfram, sounds more like she's describing quality control from someone else in the office. I agree, because peer review is when you are done with a report. You are done with it, you have checked it, you have signed it, here it is. Then somebody who doesn't have a working relationship with you goes through it. That can be called peer review. What she is describing and what is described in US courts as peer review is quality control. And that's a whole other thing. And I'm kind of annoyed because peer review is scientific method. It's established what a peer review is. And then in US court, fork it. We will just call it and everybody accepts it. That's, it's a bit annoying. But since all the trials I've watched so far, everybody uses it in the same way, means I'm equally annoyed at everybody about it. Yeah. Let's continue.
So you said the majority of the offices that are under name they all follow the same procedures.
Yes.
But now you're also saying that there are other people that could be in your office that have been trained under different procedures.
No, I said that you stated that anyone who peer reviews another person's report in our office, we were all trained the same way. We may have been trained in the same way, but I was trained, for example, by Dr. Randy Hanslick in the Fulton County Medical Examiner's Office. If someone is trained by
You're still
Dr.
their
Jason Graham
superior.
up in
They
New
can't
York
peer
City,
review you. Yeah,
then
another thing.
they are learning the same thing.
Peer review should be, and almost always is, done by someone who has a higher degree of education than the person making the report or the study. Almost always, if not always, at least at the same level or higher level of education. Because that person has more experience, a higher education, a better understanding on the subject you are doing a study or an examination or a report on. I have an axe. No, I have a pocket knife if you have large pockets, but my axes are out in the barn. I don't have axes in the house, allegedly. Yeah, so that's today's lesson about peer review, in my opinion.
Things that I'm learning, but looking at it as the way that Dr. Graham looks at cases. But the conclusions that you're coming to with injuries like gunshot wounds are, there's no gray, there's not gray. The thing either is or it is not a gunshot wound. So being trained by different people doesn't change the fact that if I peer reviewed a case from New York City, for example, I could see, okay, yes, that's a gunshot wound. Yes, I agree that that's an entrance. And okay, there's the projectile that was recovered. And here's what the person said the internal injuries were. And I can use my own judgment to say, yes, that makes sense.
So if you conduct a report and there's a possibility that the person that's peer reviewing your report, which is not blind, was taught by someone else, do they get to see all of or everything that you saw coming into the report, or are they just looking at the report you created?
No, they're looking at the circumstances under which the person's death was reported, the scene findings, the scene photographs that were taken by the investigator from our office. And then they're looking at the autopsy photos so that they're making their own decision. Okay, yes, you know, Sullivan says that this gunshot wound on the left side of the chest is an entrance wound. Okay, yes, I agree. If they don't agree, then we discuss, okay, I don't think that that's an entrance wound. I think that might be an exit wound. And you come to an agreement in that way.
Okay, and my last question.
If it's peer review, you don't discuss it and come to a mutual agreement. Jesus, you American courts, what can you do?
Does the person that peer reviewed your work, do they know your findings before they start the peer review, or do they? Is it to where they make their own decision and then they realize what or see what your findings are?
No, they know because they've got a copy of the preliminary report. So they know what my findings are.
Right. And you said that's best practices in your office?
Yes.
All right, thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
Anybody else?
Since there's no clock in here, I don't know whether it's morning or afternoon. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Couple of things.
You should be able to tell
does
that.
the Fulton County Medical Examiner's Office have?
My cousin is
an
apparently up
investigator?
on the, my distant cousin is apparently an American lawyer.
Investigator do a preliminary report that is provided to you?
Yes.
In the case, in this particular case, was there a medical examiner's investigator's report provided to you prior to your autopsy?
Yes.
All right, and you take into consideration those findings and the investigation done by the medical examiner's investigator, correct?
Correct.
All right. And then you start the autopsy. In the autopsy, do you dictate your findings?
At the end, I dictate at the end of the autopsy. Some people dictate during the autopsy, but I
Okay.
dictate at the end.
And do you take any notes other than your dictation of your report?
I do take notes, yes.
Okay. And you, of course, maintain those notes, correct?
Until I have finalized the report, yes.
Okay. And then those notes are what, destroyed?
There's a set of notes that go into the case management system that has a person's organ weights, and there may be a diagram on the back that shows where injuries were. But additional detailed notes concerning the size of a gunshot wound, et cetera, once I've finalized the report, I don't save those notes.
Okay. Notes are taken, but only a very small slot.
That's weird. Huh. I find that odd, that notes are actually more or less destroyed if in the end she comes to a final, because you should be able to follow her path to that conclusion and then ask her about it, in my opinion. I find this a bit weird because it's evidence, isn't it? It should be evidence that the defense attorney should be able to examine. For instance, if my distant cousin here were to obtain the notes and everything and then hand it over to his own expert to review it, an actual, you could call it a peer review, then that person can follow her path to her conclusion. Yes, Mo, that is how they are hiding the lizard people, by destroying the notes of the existence of lizard people. Yeah, I agree, Wendy. Wendy says, seems odd they testify to something that was destroyed. That's yeah. That's weird. But let's continue.
Slice is saved, correct?
I'm going to object to this line of questioning at this
Basis.
point. My basis is that it's not relevant to the factors in Daubert of the
I must sustain the
qualification.
objection.
Thank you.
The, I understood that there is a protocol that you follow,
Yes,
and is that a written protocol?
no,
So
What?
there is no written protocol as to what best practices are.
no, an autopsy is a straightforward procedure. And so I do the same
It isn't.
type of examination on each homicide victim, or actually each autopsy I do.
Okay, well, we had talked in terms of best practices. Are best practices enumerated anywhere, either in the Fulton County Medical Examiner's Office or in any of the organizations that you
What's
may
going on
be
in Fulton
involved
County?
with?
That I do not know, not in our office, no.
So when you talk about best practices, there's nothing, there's no protocol, written or otherwise, that you follow. It's your best practice, correct?
It's the best practice that I was taught, following what people do in our office and according to the NAME guidelines.
Okay, and what are the main guidelines?
The NAME guidelines are in homicide cases that a complete autopsy is performed, looking at both internal evidence of natural disease and injury, and examining the internal organs for natural disease and injury, retaining any projectiles.
This is Atlanta,
or,
Georgia.
sharp force,
from.
Sharp instruments
Fulton
that were
County.
used to injure someone, drawing blood, vitreous fluid, urine, if necessary.
I guess my question was directed at, is this recorded somewhere? Is there a standard by which you are guided by, either nationally or locally?
Yeah, what is
Wendy says, every American government agency I worked has SOPs, standard operational procedure. Yes, those should exist in every medical examiner's office, in every autopsy room. This is how you start. This is how you conduct. That's the standard of. Now you can deviate from that standard. For instance, if someone is blown up, you can't do a by the books autopsy. But if it is a regular person, maybe with a gunshot wound or a stab wound, or there should be a standard operational procedure. And now she is on the stand saying, no, we don't use those. Oh, I am. Goosebump 801 says, there are people in Fulton County who only had their first appearance arraignment after 400 days in jail. Source: watching Judge Manning. That is crazy. That's crazy. And Americans complain on Europe having different due process. Gee, okay. Now I have trust issues with Fulton County already, and this is the initial hearing, day 1, witness 1. Okay, let's continue.
Exactly the name standards, the exact wording is, I do not know, but I know in order to do a complete autopsy on a person, then you have to do what I just said.
Okay. Dr. Randy has published several books on forensic pathology, several versions, right? Version 1, first edition, second edition. Have you published anything with regard to forensic pathology?
No, I have not.
All right. Thank you. That's all I have.
Anybody else?
No, everything
Identify yourself
this
for the record,
is
please.
in the record. And
Okay, thank you, sir.
Excuse me, Mr. Eppinger. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
You mentioned earlier that in your analysis or the reports that you generate, you receive I believe, an investigator's police report in this case?
A Fulton County investigator's report, yes, but that's separate from the police report.
Now, do you incorporate what you get in the investigative report in your final report?
I have a section that's called Reason for Performing an Examination, where I briefly summarize in 2 or 3 sentences why the person is dead and is needing an exam.
And that is based on what you receive in the investigative report?
Yes.
Okay. And I believe you stated earlier that your determination is to determine the cause of death, correct?
The cause and manner, yes.
So nothing that you do determines the circumstances of an individual's death?
That is correct.
And so, and in your report, do you include any type of, I guess, the word I'm looking for, do you believe your own presumptions as far as the manner of death or the circumstances around a person's death in your report?
Dirk says, defense should bring in an expert to talk about how sketchy this practice is. Absolutely. I agree. But this is pre-trial, first hearing. So when the actual trial starts, and we don't know exactly when that is, and that is why we are doing this, because this is from December 19th of 2022. The trial was supposed to start mid-January. So they are already almost 6 months late due to shenanigans in the courtroom. And maybe we will see some today, maybe another day. But yeah, I agree. The defense should absolutely bring in an expert of their own to talk about how sketchy this practice is. Because, yeah, this is interesting. Let's continue.
I'm sorry, I don't understand your question.
Do you include any of your opinions regarding an individual, the circumstances surrounding a person's death, not the actual manner of death?
That the person was shot in cases of homicide, that the person was shot by another individual or other individuals, plural.
But nothing in your report gives anything as far as the identity of any individuals or anything like that?
That may have been involved, you mean?
Yes.
No.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
All right. Remember, folks, this is just Daubert qualifications. It's not her trial examination. So, and with that, anybody else? All right. Unless there's any specific objection, the court will qualify Dr. Sullivan as an expert in the area of forensic pathology. All right. Anything else?
Okay, so the Daubert standard is what they are referring to. This is what's going on. And the Daubert standard is the standard used by a trial judge to assess whether an expert witness scientific testimony is based on scientifically valid reasoning, which can properly be applied to the facts at issue. That is according to Cornell University, something. And apparently there is a Fry standards as well, but let's not go into that because in this trial they are doing the Daubert standard. So this is not her actual trial testimony. It's just so the court can assess can this person be considered an expert? Okay, let's continue.
Yes, madam?
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, Dr. Sullivan, I'm sorry I can't see you because monitor's hiding. Good to see you, madam.
Thank you.
Please don't discuss your testimony, anybody except the attorneys in this case. We'll call you when we need you, okay?
Okay, thank
Free
you.
to go about your usual duties and avocation, okay?
All right, thank you.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you. And Your Honor, we do then have Officer Lauzon back in the back, also ready to testify.
Okay, all right, let's summon Officer Lauzon, please.
Watching the Jodi Arias
Your
trial,
Honor, for any-
not
If the
loophole
court
is
at any point
another
wishes to
meaning
hear
in
any
that
case law
trial.
about the admissibility of any of the items, I do have that available as well at the court's
If
pleasure.
I need it, I'll ask you. Officer Lauzon, could you please do me a favor and approach the witness stand once you get there, if you'd be so kind to be turned and be sworn as a witness? Okay.
My name is Raymond Lauzon, Raymond Lauzon.
Thank you. And is it Officer Lauzon, or investigator?
No, I'm just a civilian, so
Okay. I'm sorry about that. Now, Mr. Lauzon, where do you currently work?
I work with the City of Atlanta Police Department.
And what is your job there?
I am a latent print examiner.
Okay. And how long have you worked there?
I've worked for the City of Atlanta for approximately 12 years, 2 years working as a crime scene technician and the rest working as a latent print examiner.
What is your educational background?
So I graduated with the University of Central Florida with a bachelor's degree in forensic science. In order to obtain that degree, I did an internship with the Brevard County Sheriff's Office, working with their latent print and their crime scene sections. During my time there, I was able to complete a research project and paper to determine the best.
Thank you, Jamie, for gifting a membership. And the receiver was Chas Berglund. Welcome to Vikings saying hi squad. And there is content that is member only that you can watch. And yeah, welcome. And thank you so much, Jamie. Thank you so much.
Chemical for development of latent prints on paper products.
And what is your job history? So I know you're with the Atlanta Police Department now. Did you have any history before that?
No, I was, like I said, I was a crime scene technician before I was promoted to the position of latent print examiner.
And as a crime scene technician, did you do anything involving fingerprints?
Yes, we developed fingerprints on crime scenes. We examined them to determine if they were of value to be sent to the latent print section. We also reviewed cases that were coming in from the officers, and we also examined fingerprints that were being sent over by the jail.
Now, since both of the jobs that you've had do involve that fingerprinting work, what kind of training did you have to do to obtain both of those jobs and to get where you are now?
So the training that I did for crime scene technician was I obtained my degree with the University of Central Florida, specializing in forensic science. After that, I came up here to Atlanta, was given the position with Atlanta Police as a crime scene technician, and I had to complete my training down at JIPSTIC for the Georgia Public Safety Training Center for the position of crime scene technician with the state of Georgia, and I got my certificate with them. That kind of classes were things like photography, crime scene processing,
Well, you do use it as a
evidence
cane, so you might be more
collection,
comfortable
latent
being in
print
an office
development, latent
than
print
walking
examination.
around in a crime
And then
scene.
after that, I was promoted up to the position of latent print examiner. During that time, most of my training was in-house, working with the other latent examiners, training with them. And I also was able to attend different seminars by the Ron Smith and Associates agency, working with them. And I was also able to go to the American Academy of Forensic Science conference that was held here.
And did all of those trainings sort of touch on that interest of fingerprints, including the conference?
Yes, it did.
Okay. Now, so if I'm doing my math correctly, you've been doing this since at least about 2011. I know this is probably going to be a huge number, but can you ballpark about how many fingerprint analyses you've done ever?
Analyses is somewhere over probably 10,000 working cases.
Okay. Have you ever been qualified as an expert witness before? Is this your first time?
Yes, I've been qualified.
Okay. Was it here in Fulton County?
Yes, it was.
Do you know about how many times?
Somewhere around between 15 and 20. I've also worked with Fulton County Juvenile Court and also the U.S. Federal Court.
So were you qualified under the Daubert standard in federal court?
I
Knowledge?
do not remember if they did that, no.
No problem. But were you qualified as an expert in federal court?
Yes, I was.
And what were you qualified as an expert in, both in federal court and state court?
Latent examination, fingerprint examination.
Okay. Your Honor, at this point, I would like to approach the witness with what's been marked as State's Exhibit 2. It is his CV, and I'd like to move it into evidence. I do have copies available if defense counsel would like to review it. It has been provided.
All right, anybody wish to take a look at that before she approaches the witness? All right, yes, ma'am, you may go ahead. And what exhibit number is that?
This is the Exhibit 2, unless the court would like me to do a different one for each.
That's fine, that's fine.
Seem to be ongoing.
No, that's okay.
Sir, you will please just take a look at this document and see if you recognize it.
Yes, this looks like the CV that I submitted.
So is this your CV that you were submitted with your experience?
Yes,
Does there appear to be any changes, alterations, deletions, substitutions?
there does not appear to be, no.
Your Honor, at this point, I would like to move State's Exhibit 2, which is Mr. Lauzon's CV, into evidence for the purposes of this hearing.
Any objection by any defense counsel? All right, having hearing none, States 2, Mr. Lauzon's CV will be admitted for purposes of the motion.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Who said no objection? I heard it was.
Remember, if you have a specific objection, please tell me. If in the event that you don't, I'm going to assume that silence means that there is no objection. Okay.
So, Mr. Lauzon, do you ever have to take any proficiency tests to make sure that you're up to date with everything and doing your job correctly?
Yes, we take a yearly proficiency test since we attained accreditation with the ANAB organization as part of our lab.
When was the last time you took your test?
The last time I took the test was in January of this year.
What's AMAD, please, sir?
ANAB is the ANSI National Accreditation Board. ANSI is the American National Standards Institute.
And how did you perform?
Yes,
on your
Wendy, there
proficiency
are a
test,
lot
if I may
of
ask?
defendants
I
in the
was able to
courtroom.
pass it with
So, yeah.
100% accuracy.
Thank you. Now, are you with the Atlanta Police Department Crime Lab? Is that correct?
That is correct.
And is that crime lab also accredited by any? I think you referenced that.
Yes, we are.
And what is that agency accredited with?
We are accredited with the ANAB, which is the ANSI National Accreditation Board, and ANSI is the American National Standards Institute.
Okay. And is that, what is that organization?
It's an accrediting body. They come out and they review us to make sure that we are following the standards that are set forth by ISO.
And what is ISO?
ISO is the Standards Institute, I believe.
Is that agency directly for fingerprint examiners or other crime labs?
It's actually for, it's a national accrediting, national standards.
No, it isn't. ISO is International Organization for Standardization. I use it in my line of work all the time. You've been working for 12 years and believe that ISO is a national accreditation. It is not. What the actual F is going on in Fulton County? Oh, Wendy H gifted 10 memberships. Thank you so much, Wendy. Thank you. And the winners are Julia 543, Silent PS, DMDM, Shima, Blue Abalone, Laura McCullough, Legendary Racing, Mira Mains, Fiery Red Podcast, Purple AJ. That was 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, that was 10. Thank you so much, Wendy H. You are a wonderful person. Thank you so much. Yes. What's going on? The medical examiner doesn't have a standard operational procedure. And here you have a person who has been working 12 years as a latent fingerprint examiner, and he believes that ISO is a national accreditation. Seriously? Oh, this can't be normal. Please tell me this isn't normal in US courts, that they bring forward an expert that doesn't know what ISO means. Oh. Oh. Let's continue.
Institute for the entire world, basically, to check lab work.
Okay. Now, what kind of fingerprinting testing do you do? Can you explain it briefly to us?
So in our lab, we use the ACE-V methodology. ACE-V is analysis, comparison, evaluation, and verification. In the analysis phase, we're going to be looking at a latent print to determine if it is sufficient for
I got that reference.
individualization. And in that, we're looking at 3 different levels.
Niklas, you watched enough of our trials to know nothing matters and the rules are made up anyway. Whose line is it anyway? Oh, I love that show. Yeah, I should know that by now.
Of detail, we're looking at the first level of detail being the general ridge flow and pattern. The next level of detail being the individual characteristics, or what we call minutia. We're looking at the bifurcations, ridge endings, and dots that are present in a print. And then we're going to be moving into level 3, which would be the individual characteristics on a ridge, such as the pore placement, ridge edges, anything like that. After we do that, we're going to be going into our comparison. In the comparison part, we're going to have submitted the print into the AFIS, which is the Automated Fingerprint Identification System, and it's going to come back with some results. Those results are then compared by us. In that comparison, we're looking at the known information that we obtained during the analysis phase and comparing that to a known standard.
Excited utterance is in the chat.
We're then going to move on to the next stage, which is evaluation.
Lefty Loves is also
We're
here.
going to be making one of 3 determinations. Either it's going to be individualization, an exclusion, or it's inconclusive. And individualization means that the information that we see present in the unknown that we established during the analysis phase is present in the known sample, and therefore we make a determination that they are from the same source. The exclusion says that the information present in the unknown sample is not present in the known sample, so we would rule that person out as a possible source. And then the last is inconclusive, meaning that the information present may be in agreement, but we are not able to make a definitive determination that it was made by the same source. The last step of that phase or the process is then going to be a verification phase. In the verification phase, we're going to give our work over to a second qualified examiner. They're going to review the work and determine, they're going to actually be looking at it to see the negative. If they
This is good answers. Sounds a bit rehearsed, but it's good answers. He doesn't know what ISO means, but this he has rehearsed enough to make it a good answer. So, yeah.
if we've determined an individualization, they're going to be looking at trying to find that it's an exclusion. Based on that, if they cannot find any errors, they would have to approve our work and sign that as a verification.
And how did you learn to do that testing? It's obviously fairly complex.
I learned to do it both from study with the degree program that I took, and we also learned it from working with the other examiners and also from classes that we took with the Ron Smith and Associates as well as at JIPSIC.
Now, I want to make sure I understand because I don't have that science background. If I'm understanding your testimony, if these tests are done correctly, they will show either that the fingerprint is a match, that it's not a match, or that it's unconclusive whether it's a match or not. Is that a fair reflection, or have I gotten it wrong?
That's correct.
Okay. And why are these tests done generally?
They're done to try to determine the identity of somebody who had left latent prints on a scene. Or sometimes we're also tasked with doing them to determine the identity of a deceased.
Okay, so is it that a situation where if someone's passed away, you're determining
Who they were if there's no identifying information, yes.
Okay. Now, are you aware if any other law enforcement officers, agencies, or other crime labs like APD use this? I think you said it was the
ACE-V methodology?
ACE-V methodology?
Yes, it is pretty much the only accepted methodology that we use.
Is that in Georgia or across the country or everywhere?
Worldwide, as far as I'm aware.
Okay. Do you know if any information about this ACE-V testing has been published in like a book, a magazine, publication, anything like that?
There have been many books written about ACE-V. There have also been several articles written about it, and it's been discussed in length in journals. The most common journals are going to be the Journal of Forensic Science, which is published by the AAFS, the American Academy of Forensic Science, as well as the Journal of Forensic Identification, which is the journal that's written by the International Association for Identification.
And are there any standards that control how this test is performed to make sure that you or anyone else doing it is doing it correctly?
Yes, we have to follow by first.
Won't say
within
peer
our own
reviewed.
agency, we have our SOPs. There's
They have
operating
SOPs.
procedures that we have to follow
Yay!
along with. Beyond that, there is also the guidelines that are set forth by the ISO, as well as the general standards that are published by what used to be called the SWIG-FAST, which was the standard working group for fingerprint ridge analysis, study, and technology. And then that was rolled into what they call the OSAC now, and they actually adopted most of the standards that they published.
They have SOPs,
So based
they
on
have
those
standards.
standards, is there a set of
good
best
to know.
practices to follow when conducting these examinations?
Yes, there is.
And do you follow both the standards we discussed and the best practices we discussed when you conduct those tests?
Yes.
And generally, when I say best practices, are those the same standards we talked about, or is there something else to add to that?
The standards are going to give us the best practices, yes.
Okay. And so are those published
They can
somewhere
use
and we could
him
read
to
them over if they
testify
wanted to or
against
review
the
them?
previous
Yes, they are.
Do you
witness.
know where?
The medical
SWIG-FAST
examiner.
maintains a website, and so does the OSAC.
And are there written protocols, procedures on those websites?
Yes, there are.
Okay. So if you had a question or someone else did, they could
refer to those, yes.
Thank you. Now, in this particular case, obviously encompassing multiple cases, have you tested several fingerprints in this case?
Yes, I have.
Okay. I'm showing, if I may approach with 3 documents, I don't intend to admit them into evidence. I just would like to show him and confirm that these are his reports. Does anyone object to that?
Can you speak
I'm so sorry. I was planning to show him 3 documents simply to confirm that these are the 3 documents he did in this case, and then put it on the record, the case numbers.
Can I see those briefly, please?
Sure, and I do have them available.
GD is here.
As long as you identify.
Everybody
Yes.
say hi to
State
GD.
exhibit
She
for the
is
purpose of
my
record.
first
So
and
even if
best
you're not gonna admit it,
moderator
Okay,
of
I
the
certainly
chat.
can do that. I can also go ahead and admit them for the purposes of this hearing if the court would.
Whatever your pleasure, man.
I'll do that.
This one applies to.
I'll admit them for the purposes of the hearing. I think Eppinger stuff. Fleetwood, it's Fleetwood and Eppinger and BB. Not to my knowledge.
It's not the same trial at all, Nunya. Both are gang
So I have what's
related,
been
but
marked
Jeff's
for the
is from
purposes of this
Florida.
hearing,
This
states 1,
is
2, and
Georgia.
3.
You have states 1 and 2 already, so
Oh, I'm sorry, 3, 4, and 5, Your Honor.
that'll be fine. Okay.
And these were what I made available to defense counsel during our recess, but if anyone else would like to view them, I have them here.
But they
Right, you
did
may
look
approach.
oddly
Let me
similar
approach. Thank
with
you.
face scribbles and hairdo. And they both, they are both rappers. So mine, this trial I'm covering and Jeff's trial they have rappers, but this is a RICO trial. This is before the RICO trial hasn't started yet.
Sir, I've approached
This
you
is
with
a
these
hearing
exhibits for
before
purposes
the
of this hearing
trial.
for 3, 4, and 5, if you could review them and look up when you're.
So this is a RICO trial that they are preparing for, and Jeff is a murder trial with the death penalty on the table. This is just a RICO trial. At least I don't have to tie my
Do you
hair down.
recognize Documents 3, 4, and 5.
Yes, I do.
And how do you recognize those documents?
These are reports that I had prepared for these
Okay.
cases.
No, this is not the
For each
Melly
of
trial.
the
This is
three
the
documents,
young
you follow the best
thug
practices and standards that we
trial
discussed earlier.
from the
Yes.
gang,
To your
Young
knowledge, those
Slime
cases involve
Life
defendants
gang.
Fleetwood, Eppinger, and BB.
Yes, I believe they did.
Your Honor, if I may admit them for the purposes of this hearing, States Exhibit 3, 4, and 5.
All right, Mr. Fleetwood's counsel, any objection?
Uh,
Oh, okay.
Yes, me and Jeff are the perfect people to watch and tell you about gangster rap trials. Old white guys, we are perfect for it.
Mr. Fleetwood, do you have any objections, sir? All right. Mr. Eppinger, you have any, Mr. Eppinger or your counsel, do you have any objections?
No objection for the purposes of this.
All right, and Mr. Beebe's counsel?
No objection for this hearing, Your Honor.
Okay, all right.
Your Honor, Sean Hoover, in regards to Mr. Fleetwood, it has to be shown that Mr. Fleetwood does not have an attorney.
This is the law and C word that is mocking up.
He does not have legal representation. He's not prepared to answer any of those questions.
Well, you're not representing him, remember, okay? He has the right, since he's self-representing, since no counsel has been appointed, he certainly can speak up for himself if he wishes to do so.
What?
I provide him or anybody else who doesn't have counsel with that particular same ability. I understand that he does not have an attorney as of yet, but you know, that's just the way we are at this point in time. So when you get him an attorney, if that attorney wishes to reevaluate anything that has been presented thus far, that person can do so and file
Seriously?
particularized
They start with this
motions or any
before
other
everybody
issues at that
either
point in
has
time.
an attorney or actively self-representing. Seriously.
I understand that, sir, and I'll understand. I'll say for the record, he is not represented by counsel as of yet because we haven't been able to appoint him counsel, and then we have been attempting to do so since May of this year.
Right.
All right.
I don't care how long it
All
takes.
right,
He should
Mr.
have
Fleetwood, did you have a
counsel.
question, sir? Okay, that's all right. That's all right. You're good. Like I said, when an attorney's appointed to represent you, sir, you will then, your attorney can go ahead.
Any trial, pre-trial here, not pre-trial in that, but this is a Daubert hearing about the experts going to testify in the trial. This is the Daubert hearing. Every defendant should either have their attorney appointed to them or hired an attorney or actively saying, I'm self-representing. Before that, no trial. See what's going on in Fulton County? Oh.
Ahead and particularize or object to anything that's been done so far, okay?
It's on your honor. I ain't even had a chance to get an attorney on my case. I've been on 24-hour lockdown.
You told me that the last couple times you've been here, Mr. Hoover. Okay, well, Mr. Hoover's working on getting you an attorney at this point in time, but you don't need to say anything else, okay? All right. Madam.
That's all I have on news.
Okay, all right, then states 3, 4, and 5 are admitted for purposes of motion.
Your Honor, at this point, we would ask the court to qualify Mr. Lauzon as an expert in latent fingerprint examination based on his experience, background, training, and the fact that this is a well-established, accepted field of forensic science. And we would just ask that he qualify. This court
Coffee's not
qualified
enough.
expert as such.
Okay, for those folks that were this particular expert would apply, counsels, do you have any specific objection to qualifying Mr. Lauzon as a fingerprint expert?
And Your Honor, we do
You said, what was you asking me to qualify him as?
latent fingerprints examiner, and we do just want to note that all the evidence in this case is technically admissible against all the defendants because it is a RICO.
I do have a brief cross based on that, Your Honor.
All right.
So you shared with us that you compare a known print to an unknown print.
We actually we work from the unknown print to the known print.
Okay, and then sometimes you're able to say with a certain degree of confidence that this known print is coming from the same person as the unknown print, right?
We would say from the same source, yes.
From the same source. And then do you assign any kind of confidence level to that, like 50%, 70%?
No, we don't have a confidence interval that we assign to that. We would normally say that it is determined to be from the same source.
Okay, so you're 100% sure?
Within the realm of possibility that there is a chance that there is another person that exists with that exact same fingerprint, we do acknowledge that can happen. However, we have yet to have an example of that be presented to us. So we can't say with 100% confidence, but within the realm of what we've seen over the past 100 years.
I recommend you go over to Steve Gosney's channel after this stream, because he had an interview about a week back with a fingerprint expert, one of the top experts in the field, discussing fingerprints. And he has a slightly different answer than this guy has.
Okay, and you also have seen partial prints, correct?
Yes.
And sometimes you can have an opinion about where a partial print came from, the source?
We do make opinions based on partial prints, yes, but they have to have within them a certain level of detail that makes us confident that would actually be attributable to a source.
Okay, so how much detail does there have to be for you to be just as confident as you are in your other answers?
It would have to be based on a sliding scale, which is based on the quality and the quantity of information present. So with something that is a relatively low quality print, we would want to have even more information present in that print to be confident that that would actually be from a same source. With a high quality print, there may be less information present, but we would still need a certain amount of that present.
If it's a
Okay, so
low
the higher
quality
quality
print,
the print,
there
the higher
are
the
not
confidence level.
enough information.
The higher quality of the print, it would depend on the amount of information that is present in that print still.
Okay. And you then sometimes compare these prints to databases?
Yes, they are compared against the local, state, and federal database, depending on the quality of the print.
And how do individuals get in that database?
They can get into those databases in multiple ways. I'm actually within our state and our local, I'm within our local database as I was applied for a job with the Atlanta Police. People get into local databases through many different ways. We actually get people coming in for applications, to get permits, to get licenses, things like that. And then, of course, there's also people that are being arrested. And within the state, you have the same.
Again, I recommend going to Steve Gosney's interview with the fingerprint expert. It's not that the two people have the same print, because some countries you have to have 7 points of identification. Some countries you have to have 12 points. Others as low as 5 points of identification in a fingerprint. For instance, 5 points of identification in a fingerprint is extremely low. That can make you the possibility of two people having the same 5 points in the fingerprint. That risk or chance is higher, of course, than if you're looking for 12 points of identification. But I recommend you go to Steve Gosney's interview with a fingerprint expert, because he had that was a very, very good interview. But let's continue with this guy.
Kind of thing where you're going to have people that are applying for jobs, and the same thing within the federal level. You're going to have people that are applying for jobs with banking, and sometimes even people practicing law are going to be fingerprinted to have their jobs background checked.
Okay. Is there a way for someone outside of law enforcement to find out whether or not they're in one of these databases?
I'm not entirely sure.
Okay. And you did mention that you learned some of what you learned from a degree program.
Yes.
What was the degree program?
The University of Central Florida bachelor's degree in forensic science.
Okay. And you were taught by professors at the school?
I was taught by professors at the school, yes.
Are you aware of the educational qualifications of the professors that taught you?
I am aware of the main professor who taught us, yes.
What does that have to do with him?
I'm getting there, Judge.
All right, move along. Let's hurry it up.
So where I was getting at with that is, are you aware whether or not the work of your professors and their knowledge was peer reviewed by their peers?
Yes, they actually had published.
Is that relevant? It's him, not his professors. It's him.
And Your Honor, that's where he learned what he learned from. So.
Still, it's him. You're not going back one level before. That's not proper.
Okay.
You're challenging him. Remember, his knowledge, skill, expertise, training, or education.
Okay. And just to back up and be clear, you were taught by professors, correct?
Yes, I was.
Okay. Were you ever involved in peer reviewing any of their work?
Not peer reviewing their work, no.
Okay. Because you're not one of their peers.
Yes. Okay. And not at that time, no.
I don't object to that.
I sustain the objection.
Okay. You talked about gaining knowledge from books and articles that are written in journals, correct?
That is correct.
And you're aware that, do you have any knowledge about whether the writers of those articles had those articles peer reviewed?
I'm going to object.
I sustain the objection.
Okay. And you talked about having a certain methodology and standard operating procedures,
That's correct.
and it's important that you follow those every time.
That's correct.
And why is that important?
It's important so that it sets the standard for the work that we do so that we can testify to that in courts.
Okay. Would you be
Yeah, I agree. I don't understand. Even if it's this guy, they are challenging. They have to challenge his education. And in order to challenge his education, they have to find out what the professors are and who. Now, it might be a bit excessive, but this is a Daubert-Hearing. This is not in trial. This is a Daubert hearing. And if I interpret the Daubert standard correctly, I don't think that's improper line of questioning. Yeah.
Be comfortable doing your work without a methodology?
No.
Okay, thank you, Judge.
All right. Anybody else?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Hoover.
Sean Hoover on behalf of Mr. Sullivan. You spoke briefly about your proficiency tests. You said you passed with 100%.
That's correct.
So are those tests pass-fail?
They are actually pass-fail within our agency. If you do not get 100%, then you would fail.
Okay. How many have you taken?
I've taken 2 within the past 2 years.
In your career, how many have you taken?
Just those 2 because we were not going through accreditation before that.
So you've never failed a proficiency test in your career up to this point?
That's correct.
All right. And can you give us the error rate of your reports when you are actually conducting reports and analysis on fingerprints?
Based on the prior experience, we would have to say that it was 100% due to the proficiency tests.
So it's
What?
your testimony that you as an examiner you're 100% when it comes to the tests and you're 100% when it comes to the actual reports that you're generating from these comparisons.
That would have to be the conclusion only because we don't have anything else to base it on as of right now because we don't know ground truth when we actually are doing these work.
So you've never failed in your career as an examiner?
At this point, no, I have not.
Okay. In regards to the database that you're talking about, could you please, in your expert opinion, explain how that...
In science, there is nothing that is 100%. Nothing. Fulton County is starting to piss me off.
algorithm matches whatever prints that you got to whatever prints that it picks up in the computer?
I think I'm going to object to that question. It doesn't go directly to reliability. His method is asking how essentially a computer program works. We're not trying to qualify him that computer program, just in the actual print analysis.
This is a Daubert-Hearing.
I don't believe that's true. We just got
pre-qualify
he's been
experts
literally
and stuff like
perfect in his
that
entire career, and he also uses his database. That's information that he uses to create this perfect report. I want, in his professional opinion,
he uses the database to compare prints. It's a repository of prints. Is that correct, sir?
That is correct.
All right, so that's part of his what he does in terms of his comparison. So
yes, this is a Daubert hearing. It is before the trial begins. This trial was supposed to begin in January of this year. This Daubert hearing is from mid-December of 2022. So we are watching this in awaiting for the actual trial to begin. This is the state's expert number 2. And I'm starting to doubt everything in Fulton County Court.
do you have anything else in regards to that?
yes. Can you explain to us how it works to verify your comparison?
How it works to verify our comparison?
No,
it doesn't verify our comparison.
Okay, then what exactly does it do?
It generates a list of candidates based on the information that is put into it. So we would mark up.
What are you looking for specifically?
We're looking for
ridges, whorls, points of comparison. Tell them a little bit about that.
Okay, so what we're looking for when we're actually putting in a print is we're going to take an image of it, then we're going to mark it up based on what we see. So when I talked earlier about the analysis phase, that's what we're looking at, is the different levels of detail that are present in a print. So when we're looking at the analysis, we're looking at what the pattern type is, what the original general ridge flows are. And then when we get into level 2 detail, that's when we're actually looking for the individual characteristics, which are going to be what we call the minutia. So we're looking at bifurcations, ridge endings, and dots that are present in the print. We're then going to mark those onto that image that is sent, and it's going to review the distance between those individual events within how many ridges are in between each one of those events. It's then going to submit that off to the database where it's going to review all the candidates, looking for similarities between what we've put in and what is in the database.
So I guess it only searches what you've noticed as the different swirls and loops and ridges and all that. It doesn't look at anything else but what you've put in yourself, right?
That's correct.
All right. And if you don't know if you've ever failed, how do we know what the computer generates comes out is actually correct as well?
Well, what we do is we're going to actually review each one of those candidates that comes back. We're looking at them to see if there is a comparison that we can make in between those. And then once that's done, we're actually going to, if we find something that says, yes, this is that person, it then has to be reviewed by a second candidate or by a second qualified examiner.
It has to be reviewed by a second. I'm sorry, I didn't hear the last part you said.
Qualified examiner.
Qualified examiner. Okay, now is that examiner someone that's in your office as well?
Yes.
Trained like you?
For the most part, yes.
Takes the test like you?
Yes.
All right, no further questions. Thank you.
All right, anyone else? All right, if there being no other examination, the court will qualify Mr. Lauzon in the area of latent fingerprint examination. All right, anything else?
No, Your Honor. If the court, so per the court's request, I have reached out.
Hold on one second. Ms. Lauzon, and you're free to go about your usual duties and avocation just on special testimony, anybody except the attorneys in this case. We'll call you when we need you, okay?
Okay.
All right, thank you, sir. Appreciate you.
He's not allowed to discuss his testimony, but he has already done it in his office. So, yeah. Mr. Lauzon is qualified according to the Daubert test. No, the trial is, we are still waiting for the young thug RICO trial to start. It has been delayed due to shenanigans by both attorneys and jurors being interesting and stuff like that. I believe they are now resuming, I believe Friday they were resuming jury questioning or voir dire. So it is coming up, but it hasn't started yet. And until it starts, we are checking this Daubert-Hearing and stuff like that. And Mr. Lauzon is... Yeah, all that is done prior to this. Let's continue.
All right, Ms. Rosenwasser, you're about to say something. I
Not sure.
apologize.
It was
For
under
the
this
court's
judge
request,
that your potential juror
for
went to jail
different
for 3
witnesses
days.
this
I'm
afternoon,
not
I
sure
know the
if it
court
was for
mentioned Ms.
this
Scott.
particular case.
I reached out to Ms. Scott. She has been able to obtain childcare with her husband this afternoon. So if the court would like to have her testimony, I can get her in this afternoon.
That'd be wonderful.
And then I can have Deputy Hall come tomorrow morning as planned, if the court would be amenable to that.
Okay, is there anybody
There's a
else?
lot
I would
of
say
people who
maybe
are
we should,
defendants in this case.
have Ms. Scott come in at 2:30.
Okay.
Would that work for you? And that would give everybody an opportunity to have some lunch. Is there anybody else that we can call in this afternoon that might be from the other days that you have?
Okay, it was
any of
this
the
case
people on the
where a
21st
juror
or
was sent to jail
22nd?
for 3 days for
One moment, please.
recording
So
a
obviously,
video
Mr.
in the
Hall, but that is going to
courtroom.
be a lengthier one. So we can have
That
him
was
in as
insanely
scheduled. Give me one
stupid.
moment, Your Honor, to book the
A
schedule.
grown person claimed to didn't know you weren't allowed
Sure that everybody.
to
I
film
would just ask you
inside the
that, you know, or you and your
courtroom
team,
during jury
reach out to see
procedure.
if there's anybody on the 20 who's, except for the gang experts, okay, because they're going to take a little bit longer. But if we can potentially move up some of those folks so that I can actually hear, you know, we can have a little bit more time, because they'll take a little bit of time. Mr. Hall will probably take a little bit of time more, so that if we can clear Ms. Scott and Mr. Panea this afternoon, that would be great.
Your Honor, I believe Mr. Pineda was only available tomorrow.
Mr. Potato.
But we can clear Ms. Scott this afternoon. I can call Ms. Brennan from the 21st and see if she can come in after.
8 of the defendants, we have learned, have taken plea deals. And they are probably going to testify against Mr. Young Thug. Mr. Young Thug is the main character in this as a supposed leader of the Young Slime Life gang, but there are other defendants as well. And the trial, a number I've heard, will be going on for 6 months. Yeah, so we are going to be here for a while with this trial. Oh, I need more booze.
Just recheck with everybody else and just say, hey, look, we have an opportunity to move you up a little bit, and we might be able to do that. That would be helpful. That would allow us to at least spend as much time as necessary with Mr. Hall tomorrow. I'll let you and your team kind of continue to work with that, and we can then, but in the absence of that, we'll continue with Ms. Scott at 2:30 today. Okay.
Thank you, and I'll try to find somebody else to come after her as well.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Or any of the other days, like your firearms expert from the what's the NIBIN expert? What's that?
That's the NIBIN.
Yeah,
That's how they
me and
identify
Jeff
the
might be
firearms.
called for
We
this.
don't, and he
As
is only,
expert
the first
on
day that he's available
gangster
is the
rap
22nd,
and
so
gang
we have him there.
violence.
The firearms expert, I know that his presentation is probably going to be a couple hours just because of how detailed the ballistics are.
Okay.
So,
Oh God, they are going toolmark guy for
and our
hours.
cell site location information, both of those individuals are, one of them is in Alabama, so he had been planning to come for Wednesday. I can see if I can get the other individual to come today if the court would like to stay later.
Well, I was going to ask you, is Ms. Van Holm the firearms expert and Mr. Voss the firearms expert? Are they available?
Unfortunately, both
Two
of them are not
firearms
available until
experts?
next week, but we do have Mr. Tanner coming, and
Oh,
I'll put the court on notice
God.
now with the experts such as the forensic chemist
My
and the
poor liver.
firearms expert. Once we have that first expert testify, like for example, we had the medical examiner testify about the reliability of the science itself. We probably just need to do the qualifications, and we would ask the court to take judicial notice that it had already found the science itself reliable. So those would be fairly short
It's
witnesses.
junk
next week would be our
science.
Okay.
anticipation.
All right.
But we'll certainly try to see if we can get, I just confirmed with Ms. Scott, she can absolutely be here at 2:30 in person. And I will call Ms. Lowry and see if she'd be able to come, or Ms. Brennan, and see if she'd be able to come in after that.
That's fine. Okay. All right. Councils, then we'll be in recess until 2:30. We'll come back and take up those, at least Ms. Scott and any other shorter witnesses. And then we'll make plans for tomorrow.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you. All right. We're in recess.
It gives us time to.
And they're back from recess. I don't know. No, closest to the camera should be the prosecution. So I hope not. Oh, come on. That's a butt. That might be Young Thug, by the way. Jeffery Lamar Williams. Get on with it. Judge is there. She looks happy.
We're back on the record. This afternoon?
Your Honor, I was able to get Brittany Scott with the GBI and Morgan Brennan also with the GBI.
Okay, all right. Let's go ahead.
Let me go get her. Should I go get her? Oh. Yeah, we got her back there.
Ms. Scott, good afternoon, madam. If you would please approach the witness stand. Once you get there, if you'd be so kind to turn and face Deputy Talton to be sworn as a witness.
You raise your right hand. You swear in front of this, to give the court the truth, the whole truth.
Yes.
State.
Brittany, Brittany, Scott.
Good afternoon, Ms. Scott. Where are you currently employed?
I'm employed at the Georgia Bureau of Investigations, Division of Forensic Science, which is also known as the State Crime Lab.
And how long have you been there?
For a little over 9 years.
Now, where were you before that, or was that your first job out of college?
That was my first job out of college.
So what was your educational background before going to the GBI?
I obtained my Bachelor's of Science degree in chemistry from the Georgia Institute of Technology. And shortly after that, I obtained my position at the GBI Crime Lab.
Now, at the GBI Crime Lab, what is your out there?
I've always been a forensic chemist, either as a trainee or a scientist.
What are some of the jobs that you do there? Your
The
responsibilities or
skippity
duties
is
day-to-day?
the
I
law
test
and
different
crime
kinds
stream, not mine.
Of
Mine is
controlled
so far good.
substances.
Now, to be able to do that, do you need to get any kind of certification? Education at Georgia Tech.
Yes, once I obtained my job at the GBI Crime Lab, I underwent about a year-long training program where I learned all about the different controlled substances through different written, oral, and practical examinations. Following that, every year we have to do a certain number of hours of training that is relevant to our field of expertise.
So is that sort of a continuing education?
Yes.
What are some topics of those trainings?
Usually they have to pertain with, things that are relevant. So in the last few years, it's been a lot more based on fentanyls and their analogs, THC and THC products. Those have been some of the more prominent trainings recently.
Do you need to be certified in anything to do this, or is this just that your education
How do you
authorizes you to do
test
that with the continued training?
Yes, the educational background and the training program at the GBI Crime Lab is enough for us to perform our duties.
Okay, and
I
have you
already
ever
don't trust the
taught
crime
any
lab.
trainings or other classes about this or
Do you
given
have
presentations?
SOPs?
Yes, I have.
Can you describe those?
Yes, for years, I was one of the cocaine school instructors where we taught, it was about a day-long training course at the Georgia Public Safety Training Center, where I taught different officers about different forms of cocaine, what it looks like, how it's used, that kind of stuff. I also did a presentation
many
at the
comments.
Georgia Institute of
So many
after
comments.
I've graduated, give them an overview of what all different opportunities there are at the crime lab.
Thank you, Your Honor. With what's been marked as State's Exhibit 6.
Still,
Been
that's,
provided to
this
all
is the
defendants.
law
I
and
do have a
crime
copy here,
feed,
should any
not
of
my
the
feed.
attorneys wish to have their own copy. Thank you. Ma'am, do you recognize this document?
Yes, I do.
What is this document?
It is my CV.
And have there been any alterations of
Only other addition, I believe, under the trainings and meetings attended to say that the list was not all inclusive.
when I would like to move?
Yeah, I can't really apologize for the law and crime stream. It's hacked up apparently, and I saw this. Thank you, Farrell. Due to a prior comment that Mo should go for president. Yep. Oh. Yeah, the way she described that training was interesting. How to use it, how it smells, stuff like that.
State Exhibit 6 in evidence.
Any objection to state 6? Hearing no objection is admitted.
Thank you. Now, what types of substances do you test at the GBI?
We test different items of evidence for any types of controlled substances.
Now, have you ever been qualified as an expert before? 4 times.
Probably around 40 times.
Is that all or state court?
As you see here,
Or in Fulton County?
nothing
or
wrong
other
with my
counties?
feed.
Fulton
This is
County and other counties.
Okay. Tested the components of pills. Like if you get a pill, can you test and decide what kind of drug it is?
Yes, I have.
Can you briefly describe the process for determining, for example, relevant to this case, if a pill is an oxycodone pill?
Yes. A test that I would do is a logo identification test. I will look at the tablets that I have received, including its shape, its color, its logo, any imprint markings, and I will compare it to a known reference material, either in books or online. If the tablet that I'm looking at in person matches the reference that I'm referring to. Following that, the next test most often performed is a gas chromatography mass spectrometry test. And I did misspeak. After doing the logo identification, if it qualifies, I will take a weight of the tablets as well.
Now, what, I'm not going to remember the word you just said. What is the gas
gas chromatography mass spectrometry.
Can you explain that test?
Yes, so it's a very specific kind of 2-part technique. The first component, the gas chromatography part, will allow any components that are present in the evidence to be separated. The mass spectrometry portion is the instrument's detector. So basically any component that the gas chromatography portion separates, the mass spectrometer will detect it and produce a spectrum that can be compared to known reference material.
Now, is this test accurate? Do you know how often it's accurate or whether it has a rate of accuracy?
So it doesn't quite have a rate of accuracy as it is a qualitative measurement versus a quantitative measurement or a numerical measurement. Really, this test kind of works. The data is produced, and then myself as a scientist evaluates the data to see whether it meets the requirements.
What are, I guess, some requirements that it might meet? Can you explain that to someone with no science background like myself?
Yes, so for the gas chromatography mass spectrometry test.
Excuse me, Sean Hoover, I have an objection.
What's the basis?
It looks like the witness is looking down and reading from something. I'm not sure if there's anything put into evidence that she's allowed to read from. I'm just a little concerned with what she's looking at that we don't have.
I believe that's her subpoena right there.
Yeah, it is.
That's the only thing, okay.
There's other papers underneath, but I can't see them through the paper.
Okay.
You can I can put them somewhere else.
You just kept looking down and making sure you don't have something that the rest of us don't have, that's all.
I have no objection to getting them and putting them over here.
Why don't you do that?
And Mr. Hoover would like to see what she was looking at, that's fine too.
I believe as long as it's not something that the rest of us don't have.
Okay, all right, continue.
I believe I was asking how the different components match or how you would determine that.
Yes, so for that gas chromatography mass spectrometry test, I can either compare the spectrum that I received to known reference material, or a standard can be run on the instrument and I can compare the spectrum that way.
Okay. Now, if a test like this is done correctly, what will it show when you're done with the test?
In the case that you mentioned of oxycodone, if it is a positive test for oxycodone, then the spectrum obtained from the tablet that was tested would match that of a known reference material or standard.
And sometimes, does it not match sometimes, or it does match sometimes?
Correct, yes.
What do you do if it doesn't match?
If it doesn't match, I will either see if there are other components that are in there and determine what those components may be, or sometimes there's nothing. It is a negative test, and I would move forward with pursuing a negative result.
Okay. Is drug testing like the way that you test?
Yes, so our reports are subject to peer review.
Can you explain that?
Doesn't she look a bit like an older Greta Thunberg?
Yes, so our peer review process works. Another trained scientist in the
So Greta
same
Thunberg
regards
can wait
that
on
I've
her and
been,
without the
we'll
pigtails.
look at the report and all of the data that's been generated to see if they would come to the same conclusion.
So the methods of testing that the GBI uses, are those published in a textbook anywhere? Do they come from, a training? Is this anyway an accepted science?
Yes, both. So all of the different methods used have been published in articles, and they are also all extensively covered in our training program.
Do other laboratories in the United States or anywhere use the same types of methods that you use? I, again, have immediately forgotten the word that you said to describe it, but that test.
Yes. The gas chromatography mass spectrometry test, yes, other labs do use it.
Okay, is that nationally or just in Georgia?
Yes, but both in Georgia and nationally.
Are there any standards that control how these tests are performed to make sure that people are doing them accurately?
Yes, there are.
Can you describe those, please?
Yeah, so there's a few different standards that can be followed. One set of standards that we follow are the SWIG drug guidelines. Another set of guidelines that we will follow are the OSAC guidelines.
And I'm sorry, can you explain the SWIG drug guidelines, please?
Yes, so the SWIG drug stands for Scientific Working Group. And so basically this group or this committee will come up with different standards that are published and for all labs to be able to reference to use.
Okay, and the other guidelines you mentioned as well, are those published?
Yes.
Okay. Is there any specific best practice or standard that you follow at the GBI, or is it both of those or anything else that I haven't mentioned?
Yes, it includes both of those as well as all of our GBI policies as well.
Okay. In this particular case, did you test oxycodone?
Yes, I did.
And is that DOFS case 2021-1024101 to your knowledge?
Yes.
Okay. When you did that, did you follow all those best practices?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Your Honor, at this time, I would like to request this court to qualify Ms. Scott as an expert in forensic chemistry based on her experience, background, training, and the fact that this science of drug testing is well established and an accepted field of forensic science.
All right.
Still, this is the law and Seaward
So
feed.
you explained to us that you consider yourself a scientist.
Yeah, I'm a forensic scientist, forensic chemist.
Okay, and when you're doing this testing, you mentioned whether or not a tablet matches a reference. What did you mean by the reference?
So are you asking about the logo identification test specifically? Yes. So I will look at the tablets that I receive, and then I will look at a reference material to see if they visually are consistent.
Okay, and so you're following the scientific method when you do that?
Yes.
And that's because it involves a control group and an experimental group, correct?
So again, this is just one part. This is just one test that correlates to an entire result. So there's not exactly an experimental group. This is just one comparison test to see if the tablets are visually consistent. From there, I then do additional chemical tests.
Okay, and in the scientific method, just explain to us very briefly, why is there
Let's hope that
often
the
a control
trial
group and an experimental
starts
group when you do
really soon.
scientific studies?
To just
This
a control
Daubert
group is one that you
hearing
kind of know
7
what
days.
to expect, and so that way you can
And I
determine
don't want
based
to hear
on
from
the
the
results that
toolmark
you get on
guys
your control
more
group,
than
if
once.
what the experimental group, the results are showing, if they can be determined to be accurate.
Okay, thanks. And if you didn't have a control group and an experimental group, you wouldn't be able to know whether there's just a correlation or causation, correct?
Correct. And again, this is why the logo identification test is not used solely to determine the identity of a tablet.
Okay, and you mentioned fentanyl. That wasn't always around during your career, correct?
It's just not necessarily all of the different analogs that we are seeing now, and not as prevalent as we are seeing now.
Okay, how do you keep?
Okay, I found the Fulton County Medical Examiner Autopsy SOP. Here it is. Oh. Oh. Let's go on.
Up to date on the new analogs that might be coming out?
Your Honor, I'm going to object to this line of questioning. She was certified as a forensic chemist with this specific on the tests. I'm sorry, to oxycodone.
First
I'm
picture
not
was
sure
thanks
if
to
fentanyl is
Starow,
relevant
the
to this
housewife.
questioning, Your Honor.
Second picture
It is, Your
was
Honor. Fentanyl
thanks
is often
to
used as an
Andrew
analog
Branca.
to give people the same experience as oxycodone, and I'm just getting at how she keeps
We
up
are
to
having
date
a
on the
separate
new
discussion on
developments for this
Twitter
case.
about
Yes, Your Honor.
this.
I'm asking how she keeps up to date on new
Not what I
forms of
asked you.
testing.
Is it relevant for this case? Meaning, is somebody gonna, do we have tablets that are taken or drugs that are, terms of, that are going to be an issue in this case of that particular type?
Not that I know of, Judge, but my relevance was more aimed at her as an expert for the purposes of Daubert.
Okay, but she's tested, she's being sought to be, qualified as a forensic chemist.
Right.
So if you are asking about something that is going to be irrelevant in this case, then fine. If it's not, I'm gonna basically sustain the objection for relevancy.
Right, Your Honor. It was only to gauge her as an expert. She hasn't been qualified yet as an expert, so I just want to know how she keeps up to date on new developments in her field.
Okay, well, I think that's fair enough.
Okay. How do you stay up to date on new developments in your field, such as new analogs of drugs that might come out, synthetic drugs?
Yeah, so part of those hours of training that we have to get every year, again, a lot of them in recent years, the past couple of years, a lot of them have been more focused on fentanyl and the analogs. So attending those trainings, either in person or virtually, that does help to keep up to date on the different trends that we're seeing and different analytical techniques.
Okay, and those trainings are conducted by people outside of GBI?
Both. Some are internal and some are, in the state of Georgia. Some are nationwide, some are worldwide. So.
Okay. And do you also involve yourself with any articles? Have you ever been published?
I have been published back in college, so it's been a minute, but yes.
Okay, cool. And was what you published peer reviewed by other scientists?
I believe so.
Okay, and why is that important?
Why is it important to have something peer reviewed? Just to make sure that other people that are in the same type of field would agree and come to the same conclusions.
Okay, cool. And so it's fair to say that it's important to have a methodology in your field?
I would say so, yes.
Okay, would you be comfortable doing testing and identifying data without operating under a methodology?
Mr. Menez, what does that have to do with anything? You're
That's
supposed,
my final
remember,
question.
it's a Daubert qualification. This isn't weight sufficiency or before a jury. Your questions are.
He's asked the similar questions to the others because the medical examiner did not have a standard operational procedure. This is a plan for trial, just to get these things on record. That's actually good, but judge don't like it. And rule number one in a courtroom, don't piss off the judge. But yeah, we will see what happens.
They're perfectly fine if she gets qualified and we put her in, she testifies in front of a jury.
That's my final question, Your Honor.
All right. You sit down then.
Well, I was waiting for the answer.
What was the question you asked?
Whether she would be comfortable identifying data without using a methodology.
That again, that's another, doesn't really go to her qualifications. That's a weight and sufficiency question.
Okay, I'll take the court's objection, but for the record, I just, it's relevant to her as expert.
Madam, you want to answer that question?
The question that he asked. Again, can you repeat it? Because I
Like
got distracted.
you operate under certain scientific methodologies when you're identifying data, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so it's fair to say you would not be comfortable as a scientist operating without a methodology.
Yes, but we always work under having some sort of methodology, yes.
Okay, thank you. Those are my questions, Your Honor.
Anyone else? Okay, based upon what the court has heard in terms of testimony, the court will qualify Ms. Britton Scott.
I don't know what the sound is. It's from the law and C word.
Okay, Ms. Scott, sorry.
So I guess both the camera guy and the sound guy is on the same kind of drugs.
Okay.
Please don't discuss your testimony with anybody except for your attorney in this case, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, madam. I call you next witness, please.
Your Honor, state will call Ms. Morgan Brennan.
Miss Morgan Brennan.
Let's listen to
Okay, summon
this
Mr. Brennan,
expert,
please.
and
Miss
then
Brennan,
I'm
is it
good
Miss
for the
Brennan or
day.
Mr. Brennan? Okay,
Because
all right.
this sound is getting really annoying. Jesus Christ.
I just want
Counsel, I have a question.
and have not had questions or objections to any of the experts that have been presented today. I think I just needed to make a record that since it is a RICO case and every expert and all of the testimony does affect my client in some way, I just want to again say that, of course, I just entered this case late last week. I just received discovery on Friday. As the court knows, it's very voluminous. And for the record, I wanted to say that, Your Honor, I'm not prepared and would not have been prepared to question any of these witnesses or even the ones that are coming up this week, because I've not had enough time.
Okay, have you gotten all the discovery in this case, madam?
Yes, Judge, I was emailed the discovery on Friday.
This past Friday?
Yes, Judge.
Okay, all right, well, I'll note your objection for the record, madam, and if you require any additional time to be prepared, then in motions of counsel, so
Yes, Your Honor.
you should be covered.
Yeah.
But you just want to make, I know you want to make sure you object for purposes of your client, Mr. Stevens, and I've no.
So buzzing sound and the feed cuts out. What's going on in the background on Law and Crime here?
Testimony to give the court the truth, the whole truth,
Oh.
and the truth alone. Take a seat. So state the story.
Morgan Brennan, M-O-R-G-A-N.
She looks like her name is Morgan.
Good afternoon, Ms. Brennan. How are you today?
I'm good, how are you?
Good. Now, can you tell the court what's your occupation?
I'm a forensic chemist at the GBI Crime Lab,
And how long have you been there?
over 3 years.
Have you held different positions while at the GBA Crime Lab?
I've been a scientist trainee and a crime lab scientist, level 2.
Okay. And do you have any relevant training or certifications in that area?
I have completed the required GBI training program that consisted of over a year of training, as well as my bachelor's degree in forensic chemistry and
We're
general
over
chemistry.
2 hours, so I can.
Now, do you
I
have to
don't
be
think I'm already
certified in
too
that
yellow, so
field?
No, the bachelor's degree and the training program is sufficient.
It's sufficient?
Correct.
Okay. How do you stay up to date on the material?
I
Yeah.
am involved in
Somehow
continuous training hours required every
YouTube
year,
thinks
as well
what
as
we have
yearly
talked
proficiency
about
testing.
here
Quarterly.
puts me
And
at a warning
have you
level
qualified, I'm sorry, have you
regarding
ever been
ad
qualified as an expert
suitability.
before?
Yes.
Maybe
How
they
many
have
times?
a boring warning. I don't know.
Your Honor, at this time, I move to admit state's proposed exhibit 7.
You may.
Ms. Brennan, can you tell me what the document is?
That's my CV.
The operations for that CV?
Yes, I recently sent an updated one with my legal name change, as well as some additional training experience that I added to it.
Your Honor, at this time,
Jesus Christ.
state moves to admit state's proposed exhibit 7 into evidence. That's previously provided to.
Any objections to state sevens?
I don't
No
know.
objection, but,
I don't know why you'd.
The young
The
lady's
last
new name, I may have that
6
CD under a different name. I do not have.
streams I've made, including my casual streams, are getting a
All right,
yellow warning.
hearing no other objection, state sevens admitted.
Yeah, I'm sorry, can you speak into the mic, please? I can hear what you're saying.
The witness's former name was Morgan Lowry. Her current name is Morgan Brennan. Ms. Brennan, do you generally test THC?
Yes.
And how do you test it?
Depending on the type of evidence, it's always started with weighing, and then usually gas chromatography, mass spectrometry, and followed by HPLC or high performance liquid chromatography if needed.
Did you say that one more time?
High performance liquid chromatography or HPLC if needed.
And is there a rate of accuracy when testing this?
For qualitative testing, no.
Okay. What does this test typically show if done correctly?
The gas chromatography mass spectrometry GCMS test will show the presence or absence of any controlled substances.
Okay. And how does this test work?
I would perform the same type of testing. If I performed the high performance
you.
liquid chromatography testing, that would be quantitative testing.
she tests for
and
drop.
that would be comparing
That's
my
what I was
known
saying.
sample or a known reference sample to the unknown case sample.
Yes, I had a boomer moment.
And what does this test show if done correctly?
The presence or absence of a controlled substance.
Okay. And do you test the components of pills?
Yes.
Pills.
Yes.
Okay. Do you test for methamphetamines?
Yes.
How do you test them?
Typically, if it's a tablet, I'll visually look at it. If it looks like a pharmaceutical tablet, I'll perform a logo any shape, size, color, and any imprints to a known reference. And then next, I would follow up with most likely the gas chromatography mass spectrometry.
And is there a rate of accuracy for this test?
Not for qualitative testing.
Okay. How does this test work?
So she's an expert in a test that can't
Any
be.
components of a mixture, and the mass spectrometry portion will allow me to uniquely identify
Does this test show if done correctly?
the presence or absence of any controlled substance.
Material for cocaine?
Yes. I will weigh the substance. I'll perform a preliminary test. And then in this case, I performed thin layer chromatography, which is a simpler form of the gas chromatography, and then follow up with the gas chromatography mass spectrometry.
Okay, it was a jump in the feed. I don't know why. What's going on? Jesus Christ.
All right, council, we do have one other time, fairly time sensitive.
Why did they cut out that from the feed? She was doing fine. Except for the noise and the jumping. Law and crime on this feed must have, we're forking up royally here with the feed, so they cut out the interesting expert. You know what? We've been at this for almost 2.5 hours, and hopefully the actual trial will begin soon. We will continue with this. Not tomorrow. Tomorrow is Tuesday. Me and David are having our Judy Aris trial to go through. We are in day 4. And at the moment in that trial, they are cross-examining Jodi Aris' shoulder pad Mormon booty call. So that will be interesting. So I will cut this out. I think Mo has a stream lined up, so I will send you over to her. And yeah, I might need another drink. And I hope I'll see you all here tomorrow. And on Wednesday, I will continue with this hearing. I will scan through, because since it's a Daubert-Hearing, we don't need to hear all the experts go on. And I will try to find somewhere where it doesn't have this buzzing sound. Okay? Because that was really annoying. Yeah, I need to relax as well. I'm going to watch Mo in her stream. So thank you for all the gifted memberships. Thank you for showing up. Love you all. And yeah, I will see you tomorrow, I hope. You all have a nice day. And I will talk to you later.